I read this book right here, Immortal Thor, number one, and I liked it. I did not, or Mortal Thor, excuse me, Mortal Thor, number one. I did not keep up with Immortal Thor. I think I bought like one or two issues. There's so many books sometime that's going on. It's hard for me to keep up, especially now the issues of Immortal Thor that I read, they were good, but there's so much that I'm keeping up with. It wasn't like so gripping. I had to keep up with it. Doesn't mean it was bad. But Mortal Thor number one was actually decent. I read it, saw some reviews. Some people had some things, not so glowing things to say about it, but I read all the way through and I gotta say I enjoyed it. So I saw this review right here. I didn't read any other review. I saw video reviews that weren't that great. But this one, just from my skimming through it, seemed to have probably one of the most balanced views I saw of this book. Now, of course, this book has been out for, a little bit now. So this article is actually from a few weeks ago, but I still think it's a good article to go over. There's probably people who are thinking about buying this book that didn't buy it anyway. Let's get into this article. Superherohype.com, who let me down last week, so hopefully they redeem themselves in this article. The Mortal Thor number one review, Putting the Hammer Down. It is understandably difficult to kill a god. Even when it's accomplished, the death is rarely permanent. The cosmic cycle demands certain forces be bound within constructs of belief and faith, and those forces, where there is no worthy vessel, have to go somewhere. This principle leads to the birth of a new god of thunder when Midgard is separated from the other realms, a mortal Thor. The action in this book, by the way, was good, and it picks up with Thor living in an apartment. I looked up a little bit of what happened in Immortal Thor, and I guess there was some huge battle. He lost his memory, sent to Earth, doesn't really know who he is, live in an apartment, working a regular job. That's what I've gathered so far. Take that with a grain of salt because, again, I did not keep up with Immortal Thor. And article goes on to say the story centers upon construction worker Sigurd Jarlson, who recently immigrated to the United States. Sigurd remembers little of his past. Such was which nation he lived in before he came to America. All he knows for certain when quizzed by his neighbor Chris is his name, his love of New York City, and that he's good with a hammer. And is he good with a hammer? And it looks like they're going to show one of the more gory scenes in the book where Thor got busy. He may have forgotten who he is, but those skills he has working a hammer have not gone anywhere. Thor is always a good book. I have a couple older Thor comic books. I want to say from the early 90s or maybe late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around that time. I can't remember exactly where from. Among some of the first books that I had, Thor and Conan were some of the first comic books that I read. I'm still a fan of the Conan books to this day. Even though I haven't picked up any of the new Conan books, I do like them. I might pick some up. Sigurd's search for work leads him to discover other things about himself. He has a strong sense of justice and refuses a job that requires crossing a Union picket line. Sigurd also hates bullies, particularly a neo-Nazi biker gang called the Thunder Gods, who claim to worship Thor. He also has a guardian angel in the form of a street urchin called Lucky, who seems to know Sigurd better than he knows himself. And man, when he deals with this gang, it gets brutal. I'm telling you, very brutal. Writer Al Ewing presents a decidedly modern take on the classic origins of Marvel's Thor by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. I don't I, I don't know if I took it that way, if it was a modern take. I more took it as though whatever happened in Immortal Thor, he lost his memory, his backstory, where he's from, Asgard, all of that is pretty much the same. It's just some things have transpired in his life that take his life in a different direction. That's kind of more what I thought. The idea of an amnesic god living in a mortal man is a classic concept. However, the solid execution, coupled with the modern day concerns, establish the foundation for what Ewing describes as an act two of three act story. Now, for those, you might hear that and you might think they went a little overboard with the modern ideas in the book. They were there. I'm not going to lie to you and act like they weren't there, but it wasn't overdone. It wasn't overdone at all. I don't feel like they leaned into it so much that it was like, okay, they're preaching at me some modern idea. It just felt like he lost his memory. He's in this world. There are things happening, and he's put into a situation where he has to get busy. And boy, does he get busy. Thankfully, no previous familiarity with the earlier Immortal Thor series is required to enjoy this comic. This is the part that I like. I mentioned this in another video. I'm not a huge fan of coming into a book and when you're in the situation where you feel like I can't really enjoy this because I don't know what happened before. I think we do need to get back to, in my opinion, comic books where you can pick this book up from any number, and even if what you're reading is a continuation of what happened before, it's enjoyable enough and delivered in such a way that you don't really need to have that previous knowledge. The artwork by Pascal Ferry and Matt Hollingsworth offers a subtle reinforcement of the Mortal Thor theme of conflicting elements. Ferry's style is generally crisp and clear, yet it becomes more gritty and rough in the action sequences. Scenes of detailed violence are rendered with light links and limited shading. Coupled with Hollingsworth's bright palettes, this gives the finished artwork striking appearance. Man, can't get my words out. That defies both tradition and expectation. Mortal Thor #1 is a worthy continuation of the saga of Odin's son at Marvel Comics. Those seeking a good place to start reading the recent adventures of Thor and Loki would do well to check this issue out, and also appeal to those who wish to continue the story started in Immortal Thor. He gives it an 8 out of 10. I don't know if I'd go that high. I would say this book is probably a 6.9 to a 7.3 out of 10. One of those books that you won't be disappointed if you buy this book. It won't disappoint you at all. But it's not necessarily one of those books that you absolutely must buy. I wouldn't put this in a category of a Ultimate Spider-Man. I feel like that's a series that you must read, whether you read it right now as it's ongoing or you wait for the trade paperback. I think it's a run you definitely want to read. It is that interesting. This book, interesting, art done well, story was okay, action sequences, very enjoyable. Like I said, 6.9 to 7.3 out of 10 is what I would give this book. Worth reading, not something you have to read, but if you were going to pick it up, you won't be disappointed, in my humble opinion. Opinions may vary.